discussion is early morning, Monday morning. And we are very fortunate to have with us on this discussion Ms. Marianne Nagera, the senior manager for processing from Health Carousel Philippines to discuss to us her insights about and her expertise with regards to the EB-3 immigrant visa. So magandang umaga po sa lahat ng mga viewers natin wherever you are in the world. Kung kayo po ay nasa Pilipinas, good morning. And if you are in the USA, good evening. And kung kayo ay nasa Middle East, I think it's a very early morning there. So magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. And I hope that you had a wonderful weekend sa lahat po ng ating viewers. I'd like to request everyone to please feel free to share this information via your Facebook as well and make it public in your Facebook wall so that your friends who are also nurses will be able to benefit from this discussion. So today, we are going to talk about the EB-3 immigrant visa. Ayan, sa mga nurses po natin, kaway-kaway, comment down below kung kayo po ay andito sa Pilipinas and if ever na nag-watch po kayo ngayon, let me know kung saan po kayo. Andito po ba kayo sa Pilipinas? Andito po ba kayo sa Manila or sa Davao or sa Cebu? Saan po ang location natin ngayon? So good morning po sa lahat. It's very interesting that we are going to discuss this EB-3 immigrant visa. And it's very timely as well because, you know, USA has really a lot of demand of nurses and they need a lot of nurses in the USA. And even in other countries, even outside of the USA, there's so much demand for the nurses. But if you are a nurse and if you're interested of going to the USA, one of the things that you should know about is the visa that you will have, in which that will be filed by your recruitment agency. So today, we have Miss Marianne, and she is going to discuss to us the EB-3 immigrant visa. So as we are going to go through our discussion, please feel free to comment, or if you have any questions, just write your questions in the comment section of our Facebook Live discussion para we can have some clarification kung ano ba yung mga questions natin. If you are still starting on your NCLEX application, ayun, or hindi pa kayo nagsa-start ng NCLEX application ninyo, this discussion will be very beneficial for you as well so that you'll be able to know what type of visa would be best for you the moment that you are already done with your NCLEX. So Ms. Marianne, take it away on your discussion with regard to the EB-3 immigrant visa. Let me start by asking you, Ms. Marianne, ano ba yung immigrant visa and what is this visa that we are providing to our nurses? Or if you'd like to first introduce yourself, the floor is
Yes. So first, thank you so much for IPASS Processing for this opportunity for Health Carousel to show what we offer our nurses. So let me share my screen. There. Okay. So let me introduce Health Carousel. We've been partners with IPASS for so many years now, and we are really happy that Ms. Rachel initiated to have this session with everyone. Health Carousel Philippines, we have been in the industry for over 20 years, helping Filipino healthcare professionals to work and live in the US permanently. We are also a POEA, licensed recruitment agency. We are also the exclusive provider of Passport USA program of Health Carousel. And we are proud to say that we are one of the recruitment agencies who is ISO 9001 certified and also certified by the National Privacy Commission for Data Privacy. We offer full assistance throughout the whole process from your NCLEX to your US deployment. You have dedicated advisors until you go to the US, and we have sustainable partnerships like with IPASS and with our partner hospitals in the US. We're also certified ethical recruitment international firm by the Alliance for Ethical Recruitment Practices, a division of CGFNS. And we are also an international advocate for DC Award for Extraordinary Nurses. This is part of our sustainability also, as we recognize Filipino nurses and Filipino nursing students. What we offer our healthcare professionals is, Ms. Rachel mentioned this, we offer immigrant visa, the EB-3 or the third preference employment base. This visa allows foreign professionals, skilled workers, or other workers to live and work and obtain permanent residency in the US. So later I'll discuss this further. What are the benefits of getting an immigrant visa? As an employer also, Health Carousel provide guaranteed employment. Even before you go to the US, you know where you will be assigned. And we also offer reimbursements and sponsorships. We've partnered with IPASS to help us process the NCLEX application and NCLEX review of our nurses who are planning to take the NCLEX exam. And we also offer good relocation packages and arrival activities for our nurses. Health Carousel or Passport USA also leads industry in legal, ethical, and socially responsible international healthcare recruitment. So we make sure that we follow all guidelines and policies of the US government as well as the Philippine government when it comes to deploying healthcare professionals. We also have virtual training opportunities, especially for those nurses who have been gone from the practice for quite some time. And we also offer exclusive rewards program and milestones rewards program for any healthcare professionals who are joining us. And lastly, as part of having an immigrant visa, we offer long-term commitment to all our candidates, even after their initial assignment with us have been completed. So let me go through the pathway of a nurse from the time they graduate the the Bachelor of Science in Nursing. So BSN is a 4-year degree. After you graduate, you are expected to pass the PNLE or the National Licensure Exam in order for you to practice the profession. And we highly encourage our nurses, newly grads especially, to practice, whether that's in a hospital or just apply what you have learned in the school in the industry. And then while you are working, and if you are planning to expand your career and you want to go to the US, you can start applying for US employment. You can search for different recruitment agencies offering different types of visa for you to be able to get to the US. And then part of licensure is you have to pass the NCLEX. You cannot practice in the US without your RN license. And this is where, on this part, we, Health Carousel, provide assistance and guidance. Once you have passed your NCLEX, your US employer or petitioner will start filing for your immigrant visa. And once that process ends, you are now ready to deploy to the US. So this is a summary of what a nurse will be going through if you're planning to go to the US. So the question Ms. Rachel earlier was, what are the criteria for EB-3, right? So basically, the US government posted in the USCIS, these are the basic requirements for you to be able to qualify for an immigrant visa. You should have relevant education, work experience and training, and your work will be not you will not be getting the job of an American. Like for nurses, they are classified as Schedule A nurses already. It has been proven that there is not enough Americans to work as a nurse in the US. And the next is you should have passed the required licensure exam or certification that is required for an employer or petitioner to file your immigrant visa. Now, sometimes you will also see it shows skilled worker. When we say skilled worker, you should have at least a minimum of 2 years full-time work. Or if you see online other workers, this is where those without or less than 2 years of work experience are classified. So basically, after you graduate nursing, you can already apply as long as you have the PNLE and you have passed NCLEX. You can be applied for an immigrant visa. And then, before I proceed with the time frame, any additional questions here, Miss Rachel?
Thank you, Ms. Marian, for that introduction with regards to the EB-3 employment visa. So my question, Ms. Marian, is I have searched, I have made my research as well, and I have seen that this EB-3 immigrant visa will be for the skilled workers and as well as the professionals. So for the professionals, that's where the nurses belong, right?
Yes.
I understand it right. And for the
Yes.
other skilled workers, those other skilled workers, what are the professions probably that belong to those skilled workers who can also be issued with the EB-3 immigrant visa? Do you know perhaps?
All healthcare professionals can apply for EB-3. There are also other professions, other industries like the IT, any other industries that are classified as workers can apply for immigrant visa.
Mhm.
But for Health Carousel, we only focus on healthcare professionals, the nurses, med techs, physical therapists, and we used to have occupational therapists too.
And you've been doing this for so long already, Miss Martin. Health Carousel has been in the industry for
Over
20,
20 years.
27 to be exact, or 28?
Um, I think it's 23. I
It's
started,
23 years.
I'm here for 12 years.
Okay, it's 23 years of changing lives for those medical professionals, specifically for the nurses, the medical technologies, and the PTs. So, I have also searched, Miss Marian, that for this EB-3 immigrant visa, they need to have a bachelor's degree for the nurses. That is correct, right?
Yes.
Mhm. So what about those for Filipinos? I understand that the moment that they are done with their bachelor's, okay, they can apply for the NCLEX and then apply to any recruitment agency because we graduated the baccalaureate degree, the bachelor's degree. How about for other nationalities? Because say for example, we in IPASS, we also assist other nationalities, not only Filipinos, say Indians. Not all of them will graduate nursing with the bachelor's degree. Some of them will be like diploma in nursing. Can they
Mhm.
qualify as well with the EB-3 immigrant visa?
Mhm. So for other nationalities, it is best to check with credentialing bodies if their education is enough or will fulfill the requirements of the immigrant visa. There are certain diploma degrees that is accepted, but there are some that they need to add courses to comply with those requirements. For Filipinos, it's not a concern anymore because we are all nurses graduate as BSNs. So it's good that there is IPASS also to help those nurses or foreign nationals who graduated diploma in nursing.
Okay, so let's focus our discussion on the nurses. So for the nurses who are Filipinos, okay, you as long as you graduated BSN, then let's make it clear that you are eligible to have the EB-3 immigrant visa. Correct, Miss Marianne?
Yes.
Okay. So, ano ba yung criteria natin, Miss Marian? What is Health Carousel looking at when you are going to apply for the EB-3 visa of the nurse?
Health Carousel has two programs. That's the Aspire program and the Achieve program. So for Achieve, these are the nurses who already passed NCLEX. And for those who have passed NCLEX, we look also for work experience for the past 5 years. And for Aspire nurses, as long as they have the PRC license and have also gathered at least 2 years worth of experience for the past 5 years, they can already inquire and try to qualify to our Aspire program. The difference is that since the Aspire program nurses doesn't have NCLEX yet, we will sponsor their NCLEX. And then for those with NCLEX already, we will proceed with visa filing.
Mm-hmm. So they necessarily need to have the NCLEX before an agency like Health Carousel Philippines can apply for their EB-3 visa. So ang first process po natin, Miss Marian, is the I-140, right?
Yes.
During the process on the on that procedure, Miss Marian, you mentioned in here that one of the criteria that we are looking into is the work experience. So it doesn't mean to say that necessarily the nurse should have a work experience the moment that you are going to file for their visa, or they can just get this experience while you are also processing their documents.
Mm-hmm. So work experience, if that is not current, they can be filed for immigrant visa. And while we're waiting for the approval of the immigrant petition, they can work on their work clinical experience. So we have filed several nurses who are still starting with their hospital work. Some are still looking for their clinical work. So it's not a very strict requirement that you should be currently working. So we can file immigrant visa even if you're not yet currently working in a hospital. I mentioned this earlier. Um, Part of the criteria is there are professionals or workers who have less than 2 years of work experience, and we can file that.
Thank you, Miss Marian, for that information, because a lot of candidates as well, some of them just recently graduated, and some of them will still start on their experience as a nurse in the hospital or wherever it is, maybe in the community or wherever. And then some of them are still starting on their NCLEX and they don't have any experience yet. So on the part of the processing for the NCLEX application, it's not necessary that you will already have your clinical experience. And as what Miss Marian mentioned, that during the time that you pass your NCLEX, it's perfectly fine that you are still starting to get your clinical experience. But it is very important that the nurse should have a relevant work experience. Miss Marian, I am just very curious because this is really one of the things that employers or recruitment agencies like Health Carousel will be asking from the candidate, that they should have a current experience or relevant experience as a nurse. In your perspective, what is really the importance of this? Why we are requiring the nurse to have their experience?
Mhm. Primarily, it's because they will be going to the US working in a hospital. And one of the challenges a foreign nurse will have is adjusting to the new workplace. If a nurse has been out of practice for a very long time, a longer adjustment will also be needed. So, um, it is really advisable and highly recommended for nurses to go back bedside before they deploy and start working in the US.
Talagang very important nga naman. That's a very important point that you have mentioned, Miss Marian, yung adjustment nila. Definitely, once you have your experience, clinical experience, you will be more confident.
Yes.
Okay, you'll be more confident in working and taking care of your patients because you already have the experience compared with nurses. Now they have already started working in another country, specifically in the US, and they don't have an experience, then you might be hesitant in doing the things that you should be doing, and you are expected to do those things because you are hired as a nurse.
Yes,
So,
that's
dapat
correct.
meron, meron tayong talagang clinical experience. Let's move, Miss Marian, on the processing time frame of the
Mhm.
EB-3 visa.
Okay. So for the timeline, it varies per profession. So I mentioned earlier about Schedule A profession. So the Schedule A profession, these are the professions that the US government has declared there is not enough of them in the United States, and a certain step in the filing of immigrant visa is skipped. So for example, nurses is a Schedule A profession, so we don't go through the perm process of the Department of Labor. We can go directly to USCIS and file the immigrant petition. not Schedule A professions like the medtechs, we have to go through perm process, and it might take 2 to 3 years before we will be able to file an immigrant visa for them. The next one is USCIS processing timeline. So for USCIS, this is also in available information in their website. This varies from time to time. Last time I checked for Schedule A profession, the USCIS processing timeline is at 10 months. So this is regular processing. You will hear premium processing wherein there are employers filing for premium process, and that gives the USCIS 15 days to decide on an immigrant petition. For Health Carousel, there is a qualification before a nurse can be filed for premium processing. Now, after the USCIS processing, we also have to consider the National Visa Center processing time and consular, meaning the embassy scheduling. For embassy, for NVC, because of retrogression, probably some of the nurses know about retrogression. Not all immigrant approved petitions can go through the NVC right away after approval. The National Visa Center has been issuing notices about delay processing due to retrogression, and their documents at the NVC will be processed once their priority date is near current. So if a nurse already has the NVC fee bill, that means they can go through all the processes needed at the NVC until they are allowed to go to an embassy interview. The next one is the consular processing, or this is simply scheduling your interview at the embassy. So different locations have different processes for scheduling the embassy interview. There are times that it is the embassy who will send you the schedule. There are times that you have to schedule it through their through online or their website. So it depends on which embassy you will be going. Commonly here in the Philippines, it is the US Embassy in Manila who sends an information on when you will be able to attend the interview. And all these are affected by retrogression. So if a nurse has already an approved immigrant petition, the priority date tells us when you will be able to get an embassy interview, or probably set a tentative timeline on when you will be able to reach the embassy scheduling stage.
You mentioned a lot of terms there, Miss Mari. I picked it up. Ang unang process po natin, just for the information of everybody as well, because I know this will be important because you will be, a lot of you are interested of going to the USA. So these are some of the terms that you might be interested of knowing, and the processing time frame will also be very important for you to know. Para at least we set the expectations, right? Kasi some of us might be thinking, okay, I'm going to pass the NCLEX now. Okay, by after 3 months, 6 months, I will already be in the USA. So, parang napaka-imposible yun, guys. So, we have to set the expectations, right? Para at least you also know how to plan well yung mga bagay-bagay na dapat nating gawin. You mentioned, Miss Marian, that after they pass the NCLEX, you can file for their I-140. So that is through the USCIS na process, right? Tama
Yes.
ba yung pagkaintindi ko, Miss Marian?
Yes.
Mhm.
So it's the USCIS. We will file the immigrant petition at the USCIS, and we will wait for them to give a decision on that immigrant petition. So currently it's at 10 months, but it changes from time to time.
Ayun. And with regards to priority date, Miss Marian, because some of the nurses who also pass their NCLEX, they are hesitant to look for a recruitment agency. They delay on applying to a recruitment agency. And for me personally, that is really a waste of time because you are already done with your NCLEX. Why are you not going to decide which recruitment agency is really best for you so that they can file for their priority date? So let us clear this one to our audience. We have a lot of audience here. We have 74 live audience in our Facebook live discussion, and thank you very much everyone for being with us here on this discussion. You mentioned the priority date, Miss Marianne. What is the process of the priority date? Once they haven't applied to a recruitment agency, can somebody get a priority date or not?
So the priority date is a date commonly when you were filed at the USCIS. And it is set in stone once the immigrant petition has been approved. And that is your priority date all throughout your application. And I mentioned earlier, it is also your number, just like in a bank, your queue number. And when it is current, it will be called for an embassy interview already at the embassy. So you can only get a priority date once an immigrant petition is approved. It
Mm-hmm.
is approved by the USCIS. So if you mentioned earlier, if you have NCLEX and you are delaying filing of immigrant visa, it's true, it can be a waste of your time. But I also understand that nurses might have some other plans of delaying. But if your ultimate goal is to go to the US, then don't waste your time. After you pass NCLEX, look for a US employer, get your immigrant petition filed so that you can secure that spot of having a priority date.
Mm. So it's very important that you have to decide already. So look for a recruitment agency like Health Carousel and decide what for them to be able to start filing your immigrant visa, and then you can have your priority date. Because guys, if you do not have any priority date, then you are wasting your time. Walang mangyayari sa dream natin, sa American dream natin. We should have our priority date. Now, you mentioned, Miss Marian, earlier about the term retrogression. Some of the audience actually, and I have seen also a lot in a lot of platforms, social media platforms, that they are saying, I will not start on my NCLEX yet because it's still retrogression. What is your thoughts about this? Should the nurse also delay on even applying for the NCLEX, preparing for the NCLEX because of that retrogression? Or they should continue on their plans of applying and reviewing, preparing for the NCLEX, even with retrogression? What is your thoughts about that, Miss Marian?
Okay. So, retrogression is a normal process of in immigration. And every month, a visa bulletin is published to show what priority dates are being processed. So, if you are a nurse and you haven't started anything, but you want to go to the US in the future, starting NCLEX is really important because you cannot really be filed for an immigrant visa without it. And you cannot get a priority date if you don't get filed for immigrant visa. So it's really up to the nurse what are his or her goals, long-term plan for his or her nursing career. Because if US is still in the picture, you start now. You start preparing for your NCLEX now. The processing time for NCLEX also varies. The fastest is 6 months. So that will give you a lot of time to prepare. So if the question is if I should take NCLEX now, yes, you should. And really prepare for that exam.
Thank you for pointing that out, Miss Marian. I also wanted to point that out because I really don't want you to delay, guys, on your application. Prepare for your NCLEX because it takes time. There's a lot of processing time frame that is involved in here. The application per se will take about 6 months, and your preparation will also take about 6 months. So even prior going to a recruitment agency, choosing a recruitment agency like Health Carousel, you still have to undergo the processing and the preparation for your NCLEX before you can have your NCLEX. And good thing if the moment that we are going to take the examination, good thing if we're going to pass the on our first attempt. So what if it didn't go it didn't it, we didn't pass on our, or we were not able to pass on our NCLEX on our first attempt. So we need to prepare again. So if your goal, as what Miss Marian mentioned, if your goal is really going to the USA, then don't delay your plans. Let me ask our audience, do you have, up until this point, do you have any question to Miss Marian with regards to the slides that she presented, or with regards to the information that she presented to you guys? Any question would be appreciated. Feel free to comment down below. Send us your questions. Let us know what are your questions, so that Miss Marian can be also can clarify your questions. North Gabi is saying good morning. Good morning to everyone. And Miss Marian, let's go back to our topic. What would be the benefits of choosing an immigrant EB-3 immigrant visa?
Yes. So I mentioned this earlier. The immigrant visa allows the worker to live and work permanently in the US. I believe most nurses would like to stay longer in the US and eventually bring their family there. For immigrant visa, you can bring also your qualified dependents, your spouse, your children, having the same status as an immigrant. And the immigrant visa also allows flexibility. You can transfer from one work to another without going through the USCIS again. And also, it gives you a chance to gain US citizenship after a certain period. So we will all go back to what does the nurse want when they are planning for their migration to the US. So we always ask, what is your goal? What do you really want when applying for US employment? So basically, these are the three most common benefits. And it is important to have this conversation with the nurse, or even as a nurse, you have to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I need? Why am I pursuing US? So if your goal is to live and work permanently in a country, then US is one of the best options. If you want to bring your family, because I believe in other countries like the Middle East, you cannot really bring your qualified dependents. But for immigrant visa in the US, you can bring your family, and they also have an immigrant status. And then there, you can also get US citizenship if you plan to stay longer or eventually retire in the US.
Thank you, Miss Marian. I think this is the reason why a lot of nurses are choosing USA, Miss Marian, because they want to bring their family to the USA and provide better and comfortable living to their family. That's
Mhm.
really their why, their biggest why. Kung
Yes.
bakit they take up these challenges, they strive hard for this, and they really work hard to make their dream come true. So
Mhm.
you mentioned, Miss Marian, that they can bring their dependents. For the information of everyone as well, say I have a lot of children. I have five kids, and three kids are already like above 21, and two kids will be like below 21.
Mhm.
How will it be? How can I do that? Will it be possible for me to bring my children who are already above 21? How
Mhm.
will it go?
So this is also a good conversation with the family members. For in Health Carousel, we encourage family members to also join our orientations. For qualified dependents, legally it's just the legal spouse, and then children below 21 years old who are unmarried. So if you have dependents who are beyond 21 years old, they can go through a different process. This, you can get services of an immigration lawyer whose expertise is about family immigration. But for children who are below 21, for as long as they are not yet 21, when your immigrant petition is approved, there is a highly possibility of them getting to the US with you and getting interviewed at the embassy with you. So we discuss this with our candidates whenever there are children who are already at 19, 20, 21, what steps we can take to get them filed immediately or get them filed faster so that we can secure the um, petition of their children. Ultimately, the decision to include, let's say, for example, one of the children in your example um, became 21 years old at the embassy stage or at the embassy interview. For that case, it's the embassy's discretion to still approve or deny that visa for that child. And if it is unfortunately denied, then you can get services of a family immigration lawyer to help you bring that child to the US even after 21 years of age.
Thank you for that information, Miss Marian. So, the number po natin is 21 years old. Below 21 years old, you can bring your children. Above 21 years old, you look for an immigrant lawyer for you to be able to file your children who are already above 21 years old. I hope that's clear. One of the questions here, Miss Marian, coming from Justine Agapay, are you also able to assist nurses who are working in Australia?
Yes. So for as long as the nurse is a Filipino, regardless of their location in the world, we can assist them in processing their application. For as long as Filipino, Miss Rachel.
For as long as Philippines. I think Filipino naman talaga si Miss Justin, Justin Agapay. Ayan, so Miss Justin, that's coming from Miss Marian, that wherever you are, so long as you are a Filipino, they can assist you. So Health Carousel can be able to help you with your application. You mentioned, Miss Marian, earlier about citizenship. So let me ask this question, Miss Marian. When can a nurse have that citizenship after they are already there in the USA, but how long it will be that they will have their citizenship?
Mhm. Generally, if the healthcare professional have been in the US continuously for 5 years, they can qualify for applying for a US citizenship.
Okay, so
So if
it
they have plans to let's say for example apply for a US citizenship, they only have to communicate it with their US employer if they are still employed with the same employer, or get the help of an immigration lawyer.
is there a need like continuous staying in the country before they can get a citizenship, or is it possible for them to also go out? Is there a discussion something like that na
Mhm.
you need to have a continuous stay for a certain period of time?
Yes, it should be continuously 5 years. But it doesn't mean that you cannot travel outside of the US. It just needs to be 5 years. So you can plan your vacation and again talk to an expert on applying for a US citizenship. But generally, the law just requires 5 years of continuous stay in the US.
And I think this benefit of having the citizenship, gaining citizenship, is really one of the best things that the nurses go after for, because they can gain citizenship. Unlike other countries, though, like the Middle East, as you mentioned earlier, Miss Marian, that they cannot have their citizenship even you will already be working there for 20 years or more.
Mhm.
But if the Middle East is the country, will be the countries that will be part of your plan as your first step while waiting for your long-term goal, then that is really also very possible. So you gain experience as well. Moving forward, Miss Marian, are there limitations with regards to the EB-3 immigrant visa?
Generally, for immigrant visa, the most limitation that we have is retrogression, because we cannot really move forward if the priority date that you have is not current. So that causes long waiting period for our nurses. And also, if you're not a Schedule A profession, like what I mentioned earlier for medtechs, um, the process takes longer because you have to go through an initial process which takes an additional 2 to 3 years. So that's the only limitation for immigrant visa that is most common.
So if ever that the priority date is current, then that really is a good news to the nurses as
Yes.
well. So we can
Yes.
be able to help a lot of nurses and deploy a lot of nurses because the priority date is current. But even with the current status right now, that there is some retrogression, we still encourage you to do the processing, continue for your goal, continue on your goal, continue on the procedures that you need to accomplish, like your NCLEX, your visa screen, or license endorsement if possible, because those things, those procedures will still be required. These are still part of your application. Miss Marian, I'm hearing a lot about the H-1B visa. Is this
Mhm.
applicable for the nurses, Miss Marian?
Generally, H-1B visa is not for nurses. It is specific to specialty occupation. So for Health Carousel, we don't apply H-1B for our nurses. But we tried applying for medtechs and physical therapists, which we used to apply also before. But generally, H-1B is only for specialty occupation. And it's if we look at the process, how it is filed, it is up to the employer to prove that the beneficiary or the nurse really has that specialty occupation and will be working in the US on that specialty occupation. So I prepared a matrix, a simple comparison of immigrant visa and non-immigrant visa. Again, basically, it is a good conversation with the nurse to explore what they really want, what they need in terms of their US application. So as a type of visa, the employment-based third preference is an immigrant visa, while H-1B is non-immigrant. So EB-3 allows you to live and work permanently in the US, while the non-immigrant is temporary. It has a validity and can only be renewed. I think you can stay in the US up to 6 years. And after 3 years of your initial visa, it will be renewed, and it will be renewed up to 6 years. And then a total of 6 years. And then criteria, na-mention ko na to kanina, relevant education, work, and training. So whether you are skilled, professional, or other worker. But for H-1B, it has to be a specialty occupation. Some immigration lawyers will say for as long as you are in ER on an ICU position, you might qualify, but it's not really a guarantee of having that position that you will be approved for an H-1B. For timeline, on average, the immigrant visa is 2 years, but with retrogression, there's really no definite timeline for immigrant visa. For H-1B, there are two types of H-1B. The cap, wherein it is applied every April, and then there's cap exempt, which can be filed at any time. But when it comes to timeline, as early as 6 months after your approval in H-1B, you can be deployed to the US. The limitation I mentioned earlier for immigrant visa, it is affected by retrogression. For H-1B, since it's a non-immigrant visa, it's not affected by retrogression. When it comes to flexibility, meaning, I mentioned this earlier, can I transfer from one work to another without any other documentation or any other processes taken at the USCIS? So for immigrant visa, it is flexible. If you need to move from one assignment to another, you can be transferred without going through the USCIS process. But for H-1B, it's not as flexible because, for example, if you need to transfer to another assignment location, you have to go through USCIS and submit necessary requirements showing that you will be having a new assignment. Another thing is that if you hold an immigrant visa and you want to go back to your country of origin or the Philippines, you want to go on vacation, you can freely do so. For H-1B, you're also free to do so. But when you go back to the Philippines, you have to comply with the requirements of the Department of Migrant Workers. And sometimes if your visa has expired, you have to attend or appear at the embassy for you to get your H-1B visa stamped again. So these are the limitations on flexibility of H-1B. And then when it comes to bringing family members, I mentioned this earlier as benefit. Your family members will have the same immigrant status if you're holding EB-3, but for H-1B, a family member or your spouse cannot work until an immigrant visa is approved for you. So this is a conversation that you need to have with your family because when you migrate to the US, a lot of adjustments will be done, and one of those is finances. So if you are used to having you and your spouse working, when you go to the US and you hold H-1B, your spouse cannot be at work if you don't have an approved immigrant visa. So it might somehow have a huge effect on how you manage your finances as a family. So that these are the basic comparison of immigrant and non-immigrant visa. I might be biased because we only process immigrant visa, but this is really a conversation that you need to have with your employer, with your family. What is the best option for you and your family? Again, you're going to the US to make your life better, to make your family's life better. Um, it can be, I want to go to the US now because of this and that, but when you get there, it will be difficult. Or you go through the longer process and you know that somehow the adjustment will be smoother compared to the other type of visa. So it's really a conversation. A conversation is needed with the nurse and the US employer what is the best option for them. So I don't want to be totally biased because we're not applying for H1B, but these are really series of conversations with the nurse and what their goals are. For Health Carousel, we always say we are changing people's lives. It's not just the lives of our nurses, but also their families and the patients that they will be handling. So this is a continuous a series of discussions with our nurses if ever they are, because there are a lot of information that are available online about H1B, and we try to educate our nurses on what can be the best option for them.
This is really an important discussion, Miss Marian, as you mentioned, because knowing the things, knowing the limitations, and knowing its benefits will be very important for them to be able to decide if what is really their preference. Are they going to go to EB-3, H1, or they go for H1B? So at the end of the day, it's your preference, guys. So what will be your decision with regards to the visa that you are going to apply? So, thank you for presenting this information, Miss Marian. I think this will be very helpful to those of our candidates, of our live viewers who are with us as well. One of the questions that is coming from Christian is, can I complete employment requirements while the visa is being processed at the same time?
Is employment requirement about current work? Then yes.
Employment requirement.
I think it's about clinical experience,
Yes,
if
yes,
that
it is
is the
clinical
question.
experience.
Yes. So that can be completed, or you can work on that while the visa is still in process.
Mhm. Okay, kailangan natin, Miss Christian, ng employment. Kailangan na current yung employment natin, because that is the requirement of the recruitment agency, which is the Health Carousel. Coming from Jerome, Miss Marian, this is not related to EB-3, but would like to ask if Health Carousel will reimburse NCLEX an English exam if you already have it.
Yes. So it's part of our agreement about reimbursable expenses. So if you have NCLEX and you have already taken your English exam or already have your visa screen, it's part of our agreement that we will reimburse the cost of those. If you don't have it yet, then we will sponsor.
Mm-hmm. And coming from Justin as well, usually what is the longest time for a nurse to be deployed to the USA given the retrogression situation is happening now?
I wish I have a bolang crystal to really say how long a nurse can deploy to the US. On average, it is 2 years, provided that the retrogression is not long. Right now, the priority date is in 2021. So we are estimating around 3 years of waiting time or 4 years of waiting time. So again, it all depends on what the visa bulletin is showing us. There's really no definite answer to this. A lot of nurses ask us also, how long can I go to the US? Um, Based on our experience, if there is no retrogression, everything has worked smoothly for the nurse, and the nurse has been really compliant. The fastest that we had after approval of immigrant petition is 8 months. And the longest was on the time there was a very long retrogression of 8 years. So it really depends on how long the retrogression will be. But what Health Carousel can commit to you, we have never abandoned any of our nurses. So for over 20 years, whether that's a long or short retrogression, we have stick with our candidates and made sure that they get deployed to the US at the time that their priority dates become current. So that is one really huge commitment of Health Carousel, to stay with the candidate until retrogression is um, near, or your priority date is current and you can go to the US already.
That is really the commitment that Health Carousel will will give to you guys. As long as you are their candidate, then they are going to take care of you until you will be there in the USA. Miss Marian, thank you for pointing that out, because definitely nurses need the reassurance that no matter what
Yes.
will happen to me, you are there supporting me and you are on at my back. You got me covered.
This is especially at this point, Miss Rachel, because most nurses did not experience the long retrogression before. What I think most nurses have experienced are the continuous visibility of having a current priority date
Mm,
and faster deployment. So working with Health Carousel or one of the long existing agencies already, we have experienced retrogression several times.
mm.
And we understand that it is part of the immigration process. And we're just here. We are here throughout your journey. And ultimately, the goal is to get you to the US and change your life and change your family's life. So always find that um, it may take really a long time, but Health Carousel is here or your US employer is here. So you just need to have an open communication with your US employer, especially during this time of retrogression, so that you know what the plans are for you.
I know for sure, Miss Marian, that the American dream will take some time. So, guys, you plan. You should also have plan Bs if ever that this one is not going the way that you wanted it to be. Have some backup plan. There are other countries that you can also go to while waiting for your American dream. But hopefully, Miss Marian, because the fiscal year is going to already open by October, then we are very hopeful that there is a movement in there. Coming from Jessie, Ms. Marian, I have visa application for CNA position, but the process was not moving at all for years. The status is still under DQ. Is it possible to apply for EB-3 with other employers? CNA position.
Mm-hmm. The first question I will ask that participant is what is stated on your contract. You have to really check what your contract with the petitioner or employer states about having another US application. Um, we always advise candidates or nurses to read the contract that they have signed. If your contract states that you can apply or you're not exclusive to the US employer, then you can discuss it with them that you are planning to apply to another US employer. But again, it all boils down to what is stated on your contract. We don't want any healthcare professional to do something against their contracts.
So please, Jessie, go back to your employer and have some discussion with them so that you can be able to review or check your contract, what is written in there as per suggestion of Ms. Marianne. So we're going to close the discussion by 8 minutes. One of the questions that I have in here, Ms. Marianne, or I have in my mind is the biggest thing about the H-1B visa is that the family member will not be able to have a work. Tama ba ako, Ms. Marian?
Mhm.
If the spouse or the principal is not yet on his or her immigrant visa. Tama ba yung pagkaintindi ko, Ms. Marian?
Yes. So the H-1B dependent, what the visa is called for them is H-4, and it doesn't allow the H-4 holder to work or get an employment permit if an immigrant petition is not yet approved.
Mhm.
So like I mentioned, it's a really good conversation with the nurse or the family member to plan this carefully, especially sabi nga natin we want you to have better lives, and yung the adjustment that you will need to go through if a family member is not working might um, pose difficulties in your adjustment in living in the US. So it's also a good discussion with the employer that will be if ever you have an employer filing for H-1B. But for immigrant visa, since both of you will have immigrant status, then the spouse can work any type of job.
And that is really very that is really the good benefit of getting the EB-3 immigrant visa. So guys, we're here to present you realities. We're not going to hide anything because we want you to be well informed. That is the objective of this discussion, so that the more information that you can have, the better decision that you can also have. So
Mhm.
we can present to you H-1B, we can present to you EB-3 immigrant visa, but at the end of the day, it's still up to you. What is your preference? Okay, because this is your life. This is the life of your family, and this is really for you. This is the career that you are going to work. You work. This is the career that you worked hard for. So definitely, you need to be able to know what are the benefits, what are the pros, what are the advantages and disadvantages of such a visa. So it depends on you. We're just here to help you out on your plans. If ever that you haven't started on your NCLEX and your visa screen and your license endorsement, IPASS Processing is here for you. And if ever that you need a recruitment agency, definitely you'll be needing one because you need an employer for you to be able to be deployed in the USA. Health Carousel is also here to provide you and to change your life as a nurse and for the lives of your family members as well. Miss Marian, any parting words that you'd like to provide to our nurses?
For our nurses, it is always best to get information from a primary source or from an expert. I'm not an immigration expert, but if you have specific questions on your specific cases, it is best to inquire from an immigration lawyer. Health Carousel has our internal team of immigration um, lawyers and legal assistants. And also, if you want to know more about our program, I've posted here our email address. You can send us your inquiries, and one of our recruiters will get in touch with you. At the end of the day, Miss Rachel is right. This is your life. Um, just get as much information as you can and then compare and decide which one is best for you. Once you have made your choice, look for an employer like Health Carousel who will be with you throughout your journey, regardless of what happens in retrogression. And when you are haven't started your NCLEX, look for a partner like IPASS who will guide you and give you the right information on how you should go through and take your NCLEX. Having a good preparation for NCLEX also is good. IPAS has taken care of our nurses and helped them pass the NCLEX throughout the years, and we can say that we are very grateful for the services that they have provided. And again, this is all based on what you need and what you want in life, especially in your nursing career. And I really wish you all the best and fruitful career in nursing.
Thank you, Miss Marian, for this very insightful discussion that you have provided to our nurses, Miss Marian. We're very grateful for the opportunity of being a partner of Health Carousel as well. Well, we are a proud partner of Health Carousel ever since we started our partnership in 2017. And we're able to change a lot of lives of nurses because of the partnership that we have. So we are very grateful that you are there helping the nurses, and thank you really for the all-out support to these nurses. And napaka-thankful kami because of what you're doing. You've been sponsoring nurses for their NCLEX application, helping them with their review program. Health Carousel has been very generous to our Filipino nurses, really. And that's the reason why Health Carousel has been there in the business for more than 25 years or 23 years, as you mentioned, because of the impact that you have created to the lives of the nurses and even to their families. So we are just one of those very grateful vendors that you have, Miss Marian. So napaka thankful kami ng dahil sa inyo. And to all our audience, to all our live viewers, and to all nurses out there who are dreaming of going to the USA. As you know, guys, the USA is needing a lot of nurses. So you have to start on your application now, because a lot of things will take some time. Processing, the preparation, the application. So there's a lot of things that you have to consider. So you have to get started. You have to really discover what is your why. Why do you have to go through all of this? Is your dream to provide the best life for your family? Then choose USA. Choose Health Carousel Philippines Incorporated. Thank you, Ms. Marian, for this wonderful discussion. Maraming salamat po for the presentation that you have provided to our nurses. And we look forward to serving more nurses through Health Carousel Philippines.
Yes, on behalf of the whole Health Carousel Philippines, thank you everyone for attending the session, and also to IPASS team for giving us this opportunity to present our program and insights on the EB-3 visa.
Thank you, Ms. Marian. That was really a productive discussion that we have. And we look forward to learning more things through you. Maraming salamat po. And have a great day, everyone. Good morning to all. And take care. And for the rest of your day, maraming salamat. And we wish you all the best for the rest of your day. It's still a Monday morning. Marami pa tayong dapat na gagawin because it's still Monday. It's still a start of the week. Thank you, everyone, and God bless everyone. Maraming salamat po, Ms. Marianne. Bye!
Bye!